I still remember the sting of it. Bradley Kent, the CEO of Kentrex Global, stood at the head of the boardroom table, flanked by high-level execs. I was just placing updated contracts, an assistant, invisible. "Simone," he said, loud enough to draw attention. "How about you leave the legal notes to the lawyers?" Laughter echoed. I nodded, face blank. But inside something twisted. He had dismissed me like I was a nuisance, not a woman who'd spent years studying contracts late at night. The deal on the table? A $95 million acquisition of cargo via freight. Everyone was excited. Everyone but me. I'd seen something, a clause buried deep. And Bradley? He'd just handed the quiet girl a reason to fight back. That night, I stayed behind after everyone left. The building was quiet, just the hum of fluorescent lights and my heartbeat. I pulled out the full cargo via acquisition document. Page 286. There it was. Dormant licensing clause, transferable to third party upon submission and nominal payment before final close. A relic from 2002, long ignored, but still binding. Bradley had brushed me off. He didn't see the threat. But I did. I texted Devin Lee, an old law school friend now in compliance. "Does this clause still hold up?" I asked. His reply came fast. "Yes. Technically, if filed and paid, even just $1, it supersedes existing buyer claims." I stared at the screen. Suddenly, I wasn't powerless anymore. The next morning, I printed the necessary forms. I filled them out slowly, triple-checking every box. I walked to a notary on 5th Street, dropped a crumpled dollar bill on the counter, and signed the dormant license claim. The notary, an older woman with silver braids, raised an eyebrow. "Buying a freight company for $1?" I smiled faintly. Something like that. It wasn't about owning cargo via. It was about stopping Kentrex from owning it. Bradley mocked me like I was nothing. This was going to remind him who read the fine print. I left the office quietly, returned to my desk. No one noticed. But beneath the keyboard lay my receipt, notarized and time-stamped. The fuse was now lit. 2 days passed. Nothing. Bradley paraded around the office like a king. The deal was nearly done. The team celebrated early, champagne in the fridge, congratulatory emails flying. But I waited. At 9:43 a.m. on the third day, a man in a tailored gray suit stormed into the executive wing. Legal counsel from Hanover, the acquiring firm. I heard shouting. The words "invalid license," "halted merger," and "unauthorized claim" slipped past glass walls. My heart thumped. I checked my phone. An email from Bradley, subject line: "Come to my office." Now, I smoothed my blazer and walked slowly. This time, I wasn't walking in as a secretary. I was walking in as the woman who stopped his entire empire. Bradley's face was red. He stood, fists planted on the desk, voice sharp. "Do you know what you've done, Simone?" I didn't flinch. "I followed the law. You had no right, no authority." I sat down calmly. "The clause was public. You dismissed it." "I acted within the agreement terms." He glared. "This is extortion." I met his stare. "This is accountability." His voice dropped. "What do you want?" I leaned forward. "You embarrassed me. You ignored a legal warning. You gamble with people's work." He said nothing. I stood. "I don't want money, Bradley. I want you to remember who actually read the contract." And with that I left. For once the office didn't look through me. They watched. At 5:17 p.m., an email hit my inbox. Subject: HR notice, immediate response required. I opened it. Investigation launched regarding employee conduct and interference with corporate proceedings. Classic move. Bradley was trying to crush me quietly. Smear me. Push me out before the board got wind of anything. I expected this. I forwarded the email to my attorney, Naomi Brooks. She had the entire timeline, documents, receipts, and the notarized claim. I wasn't just ready. I was bulletproof. By morning my office badge wouldn't work. Security reset my access. Bradley wanted to erase me. But the thing about trying to bury the truth? You better dig deep. Because I'd already rooted myself in every floorboard of this company. I met Naomi at her firm downtown. She was sharp, calm, surgical. We're filing a cease and desist, she said, flipping through papers. Any retaliation will trigger legal escalation. Bradley's overstepping. She slid the documents toward me. You've got leverage, Simone. Real leverage. For once I believed it. Back at Kentrex, HR summoned me again. 2 executives waited. We're suspending you, pending investigation. I placed Naomi's letter in front of them. Signed. Stamped. Filed. The color drained from their faces. This isn't a threat, I said. It's a warning. One executive whispered, Bradley's going to lose it. I didn't care. Because for the first time, he was playing catch-up. And I had already rewritten the rules. The air shifted. Whispers replaced greetings. Doors stayed shut. My team avoided eye contact. No one wanted to be seen siding with me. Not yet. But they were watching. Everyone was. Bradley kept his smile, but the tension showed. Tight jaw, late-night meetings, legal running scared. They couldn't close the acquisition. Cargovia requested clarification on licensing. A pending legal filing froze the process. The board asked questions. Compliance pulled old contracts. And one name kept showing up. Simone Harris. The assistant. The woman with the binder. The woman no one saw coming. I wasn't loud. I wasn't reckless. But I was everywhere. And it was only a matter of time before someone with real power took notice. My phone buzzed. Mr. Owen Grant would like to meet today. Chairman of the board. I straightened my blouse, gathered my files, and rode the elevator to the top floor. No secretary. No confitrai. Just me, standing alone in a glass-walled room, facing the man who ran the board. He didn't speak for a moment. Then, tell me what happened. I laid it all out, clear, clean, honest. The warning Bradley ignored. The clause. The filing. The retaliation. I watched his expression shift from surprise to concern. You did this legally? Yes, sir. Every step. He nodded slowly. And you have proof? I handed him the file. He didn't open it. He just said, thank you. We'll handle it from here. By Monday, everything changed. Bradley's office door stayed closed. Owen was on site, in and out of rooms. Legal whispered in corners. HR avoided eye contact. No one spoke to me directly. But I wasn't invisible anymore. At 1 p.m., the board called an emergency meeting. Bradley was there. So was I. Every eye watched as I entered, file in hand. Owen began, calm but firm. We've reviewed the documentation Simone Harris submitted. Her actions were legal and appropriate. Bradley tried to interject. She's an assistant. Owen raised a hand. She's the only person who read the contract. Silence. Bradley paled. I took my seat. The board wasn't looking at me like an assistant anymore. They saw the power. Bradley's voice cracked. He blamed legal, blamed me, blamed miscommunication. But no one bought it. Owen leaned back. You were warned. You dismissed it. And then you retaliated. Bradley flinched. Owen continued. Effective immediately, you're placed on leave. Gasps. Bradley stood, rage boiling. You can't be serious. I'm very serious, Owen said. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Bradley looked at me like I'd stabbed him. But I hadn't. He'd done that himself. The door opened. Security stepped in. And just like that, the man who mocked me was walked out in silence.
No applause. No shouting.
Just quiet. And eyes turning toward me, wondering how I did it. The answer? I paid attention. 2 days later, a company-wide memo landed. Bradley Kent has stepped down as CEO. No press release. No thank you. Just silence. The acquisition was still frozen. Hanover wanted clarity. Owen called me into his office. We need someone to review the deal. I raised an eyebrow. You want me? He nodded. You understand what's at stake. And clearly you see what others miss. I paused. Only if I'm given full authority to oversee contracts and compliance.
No figuread.
You've got it, Owen said. For the first time I signed documents as a lead, not an assistant. I didn't smile. I just got to work. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about doing it right. I moved into a new office, no fanfare. No corner view. Just walls that weren't glass. A door that closed. And a nameplate that finally said, Director, Risk and Contract Strategy. Felt earned. Not handed. Not borrowed. Earned. The team I once fetched coffee for now brought documents to me. And they listened. Because I had proven something no meeting or degree could replace. I saw what no one else did. And I acted when others froze. Bradley's empire cracked under ego. Mine? It started in silence built on substance. Not noise. Not threats. Integrity. The same board members who once ignored me now copied me on everything. Simone Harris had a voice. And now it carried weight. Hanover's legal team returned. Cautious but curious. They had questions. They heard the whispers. The story of the assistant who stopped a $95 million deal with one signature. I met with them directly. They expected tension. Instead, they got transparency. I laid out a cleaner acquisition path, corrected the licensing issue, and restructured the compliance chain. They were impressed. And the deal? It moved forward. Not because of Bradley. Because of clarity. When they left, one lawyer shook my hand and said, "You're the reason this works now." I nodded. I just read the fine print. But we both knew. It wasn't about the paper. It was about someone finally reading between the lines. When the deal closed, industry blogs took notice. But they didn't mention Bradley. They mentioned a new name. Quiet. Sharp. Unshakable. Simone Harris. I got emails from young assistants, interns, legal clerks. Thank you for proving it's possible. I never wanted fame. I wanted fairness. One afternoon, Owen walked into my office with 2 coffees. "You changed things," he said. "Not just the deal, the way people listen now." I smiled softly. "I didn't plan this." "I know," he said. "But you owned it." I took a sip. There was no parade, no standing ovation. But there was peace. And that's more than revenge. It's legacy. Because real power doesn't yell. It rewrites the playbook. The same people who once ignored me now leaned closer. A VP in marketing stopped me near the elevator. "We always knew you were sharp." No, they didn't. They only knew it now, because I'd made noise by staying silent until it mattered. But I wasn't bitter. I'd been underestimated for so long, I stopped needing their approval. Respect felt different when it wasn't begged for. Bradley was gone. But his shadow remained. And now the office moved differently. Cautious. Wiser. More eyes on details. More ears tuned to warnings. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Owen called it the Simone effect. I didn't correct him. Because even if no one said it, I'd changed the system. Weeks passed. Owen knocked gently on my door. "We've had internal discussions." He paused. "The board wants to extend your role." I blinked. "Beyond compliance?" He nodded. "We're creating a new division. Strategic Risk Intelligence. We want you to lead it." I leaned back thinking, why me? Owen smiled. "Because you see what others miss. And you act when others stall. You don't need a crowd to do what's right." It wasn't flattery. It was trust. Earned the hardest way possible. I accepted. With one condition. I want interns in every room. I want assistants learning what no one teaches. Owen chuckled. "Already approved." Power is nothing if it isn't shared. I wasn't building a ladder. I was building bridges. I hadn't heard from Bradley Kent since the day he left. Until one morning, a package arrived at reception. No return name. Inside, the original cargo via acquisition binder. Marked up, highlighted, and signed by him. A single sticky note read, "You were right. I wasn't listening. No apology." But maybe regret. Maybe. I slid the binder into my drawer. Not out of pride. Out of closure. Some people get second chances. Others get reminders. Bradley got the latter. I didn't gloat. Because power isn't proven by humiliation. It's proven by how gracefully you carry truth. And the truth? He lost because he underestimated the one person who understood how empires crumble. Not with noise, but with paper. My new division launched quietly. 3 interns. 1 junior analyst. A former assistant named Tasha, who reminded me of myself. Eyes sharp. Voice soft. She watched everything. I gave her real work, not busy work. And when she found an error in a supplier contract, I made sure her name was on the correction memo. People asked why I was so generous. I wasn't. I was fair. No one builds legacy alone. If I could rise from forgotten corners, others could too. I didn't want to be a one-time story. I wanted to be the reason the next Simone didn't have to fight so hard to be seen. And now, I was building that future, one policy at a time. Owen invited me to speak at the company's leadership summit. Me, the woman who once passed out coffee, now headlining the main stage. I stood behind the podium, heartbeat steady. You probably know me by now, I began. I'm Simone. I was the assistant who halted a $95 million acquisition by reading. Laughter. But then silence. I continued. Success isn't loud. It isn't flashy. It's in the details. The fine print. The moments you think don't matter. Eyes locked on me. I'm not here because I shouted the loudest. I'm here because I paid attention. Pause. And when no one listens to you, make sure you're still listening to yourself. Applause echoed. But it was the quiet nods that meant everything. A call came from London. Cargovia's CEO Lillian Shaw wanted to meet. We had coffee 2 days later. Sharp woman. Direct. We've heard what happened. And how you turned it around. She sipped. My board wants you as a permanent liaison between our firms. Independent. Trusted. Respected. I froze. That's a big ask. It's a big compliment, she said. And frankly, it's long overdue. Women like us don't get rooms handed to us. We take them. I smiled. Lillian was what I could become. I said yes. Not to a title. To a responsibility. Bridges were growing. And I wasn't walking them alone anymore. I was pulling others with me. Exactly how it should be. Tasha introduced me to Hannah, our new compliance intern. Bright. Soft-spoken. She shook my hand nervously. You're the Simone, she asked. I smiled. I'm just Simone. She looked around the office. This feels different. Like people actually care. I nodded. They do now. I showed her my old desk, the one by the copier near the hallway. That used to be mine. Her eyes widened. Really? Yep. But the view didn't matter. The vision did. She nodded. And just like that, another seed was planted. This wasn't a company anymore. It was a blueprint. And every young woman walking in would find something I never had. A mentor who remembered where she started. And never forgot how it felt. Years later, I kept one thing on my bookshelf untouched. The red binder. Original cargo via files. The clause. The $1 receipt. Proof of everything. Sometimes I'd glance at it during long nights. Not to relive the pain, but to remember the spark. That moment I chose not to stay quiet. Legacy isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a folder tucked on a shelf. Sometimes it's the whisper behind a closed boardroom door. Sometimes it's a woman who decides. No more. That binder was my reminder. I didn't get lucky. I got ready. And when the moment came, I didn't blink. I signed. And in doing so, I rewrote more than a contract. I rewrote what they thought I could be. I ran into Bradley Kent 2 years later. Random airport. He looked older. Tired.
No entourage. No palis tesmirk.
He nodded. I nodded back. Silence. Then, you did well for yourself. You too, I said politely. He looked away. I could feel the weight of what went unsaid.
No epalegi. No handshake.
Just history. But I wasn't angry. I was free. Bradley was a lesson. Not an enemy. Not anymore. He tried to crush me. But I turned that pressure into purpose. I didn't win by destroying him. I won by rising higher than he ever imagined. We parted without words. Because the loudest closure is silence. And the best revenge is being too fulfilled to need one. The new interns once asked, what was the moment you knew it was over? I smiled. It wasn't when he got fired. It was when I stopped needing them to see me. I paused. Don't chase approval. Chase clarity. Read the fine print. Write your own. They nodded, scribbling notes. I leaned back in my chair, sunlight on my desk. From secretary to strategist. From silence to legacy. The world didn't change for me. I changed how I showed up in it. And once I did, everything followed. So when people ask what clause saved me, I tell them it wasn't in a contract. It was a promise I made to myself. Never let them define your worth again.